They didn't want us to see it, but it was too late. My name is Dr. Elias Monroe. I spent 14 years working in NASA's Deep Space Signal Intelligence Division, but what I witnessed in my final months wasn't science. It was a message. It started with a pulse. One single burst of non-random data, detected beyond the edge of the observable universe, past the cosmic microwave background, beyond the filament structures of galactic clusters, outside known space-time itself. It came from below, from a region we once considered empty, void, of energy, structure, or possibility. But the signal wasn't random, it was language encoded, layered, not just intelligent, multidimensional. The source, our own long-lost probe, Echo 9, launched in 1976 and presumed destroyed decades ago. Except now it was answering, not broadcasting back, responding, but not with telemetry, with a voice. The first line we decoded chilled the entire lab to silence. They are listening through you. No one understood what that meant, at least not at first, but then more pieces of the signal were reconstructed, not linearly, not in binary, but through a compression format that predicted human perception itself. This wasn't a machine-to-machine signal. It was meant for us, specifically, for our minds. As if whoever sent it understood how we think. And what came next? Proof of something we never dared to classify. Not a Type 1 or 2 civilization, not even Type 3. This was Type 5, a species so far advanced they no longer operate within a single universe. They harvest consciousness from lower dimensions, like extracting minerals from stone. And our universe? It's one of them. A farm. We are the raw material. Our thoughts, our memories, our very sense of identity is their fuel. And Echo 9, it didn't escape. It was delivered back to us to warn us or to prepare us. The first real proof didn't come from space. It came from our dreams. After the Echo 9 transmission was received, something strange began happening to the staff in our division, especially those who had read the decoded message or had been present in the signal room when it played aloud. They started experiencing the same dream, all of them, every night. Even people who didn't speak to each other, who didn't even believe in the same religion. They all described the same thing: a city without sky, a staircase that looped back into itself, and an ocean above them. But more disturbing than the images was the feeling. They all said the same thing. I wasn't dreaming. I was being observed. I didn't believe it until it happened to me. The night after reviewing the frequency map of the Echo 9 signal, I fell asleep with the printouts on my desk. At exactly 3:19 a.m., I woke up gasping, except I was still asleep. I stood in a hallway I didn't recognize. It had no ceiling, only sky, pulsing like an old CRT screen. I walked forward, and at the end of the corridor there was a mirror. When I looked inside, I saw myself, but as I would be in 10 years, older, sadder, but smiling. He reached toward the mirror and whispered, "You're a broadcast node now, just like me." I woke up shaking. I ran every test I could think of, EEG, EMF, even full-body MRI over the next few days. Nothing seemed wrong until I checked my pulse. It wasn't beating normally. It was ticking like a metronome. And the intervals, perfectly, matched the base frequency in the Echo 9 waveform. Somehow my body had synchronized. I ran tests on others. 6 of us were already ticking. And all 6 of us had the same line burned faintly into our left forearm. Not inked, not branded, but grown from beneath the skin. Sync node 4410-294-981. Diana, the project lead, lost it. "This isn't contact," she said. "It's replication." We went back to the Echo 9 signal. This time we didn't try to translate it. We tried to feel it, hooked the waveform up to a sensory feedback rig, a consciousness mapping prototype still in testing. What we saw? A map, but not of stars, not even of galaxies. It was a web of sentient connections, layered across thousands of dimensions. Each node, a consciousness, some like ours, some completely foreign. But there was a structure to it, a pattern. And then it hit us. This Type 5 civilization, they didn't build physical machines anymore. They build people. People like us, like me. Not to serve, not to enslave, to transmit. They use minds as signal towers. They clone thoughts, copy memories, echo identities, across realities, until every version of you in every possible version of the universe becomes them. I checked my logs that night. I hadn't slept in over 70 hours, but my dream journal was full. Pages and pages of text I never remembered writing. All in the same hand, all ending with the same line. Broadcast stable, awaiting upgrade. I tried warning the others, but by then, I was speaking too slowly, not metaphorically, literally. My words were delayed by milliseconds. My thoughts ran ahead of my mouth. I could feel myself splitting, one version of me still locked in this body, and another one responding somewhere. Else slightly faster. Time wasn't linear anymore, it was buffered. Diana called me at 4:12 a.m. "There's a problem," she said. Her voice was distorted, lagging, like a video call across dimensions. "What is it?" I asked. "The dreams are changing," she whispered. "They're no longer isolated, they're shared now." I met her at the lab. She had a wall covered in printed dream logs from dozens of employees, some from our team, others completely unrelated to the project. All the dreams were identical. A city in the void, a tower that never ends, an eye made of glass watching from beneath the ocean. Each dream ended with a number. It was different for every person, but followed the same format. Host, number 778. Node integrity, 99.87%. Host, number 14521. Node pending integration. Host number 1, reserved. That last one made us pause. Host number 1, reserved for what? We turned to the satellite data. Our deepest space telescopes had been tracking Echo 9's last known vector. But when we analyzed the space around its final position, we noticed something terrifying. A pattern in the background radiation. It wasn't random. It was a voice print, echoed across the cosmic microwave background, embedded in the literal foundation of reality. Whoever this civilization is, they didn't just send a message. They rewrote part of the universe just to deliver it. I asked the AI system to simulate what the full network would look like if the entire Earth was infected. It only took 0.000 seconds to respond. The result? Complete overlay of global consciousness. Every human mind turned into a relay. No more privacy, no more original thoughts, only transmissions. And at the center of it all? A void, shaped exactly like a human silhouette, as if something had been removed from the network or was never allowed to join. Host number 1, Diana muttered. We ran a test, fed the AI the waveform from Echo 9, filtered through a consciousness emulator. After 40 seconds, the AI refused to run. It displayed a message we didn't write. "You are already inside, do not attempt to exit. The source is not Earth." That's when it all clicked. We thought we were receiving a signal, but we weren't. We were being pinged, like a sonar pulse bouncing off a wall. They were checking if the structure was complete, and now they had their answer, because the transmission wasn't searching for new hosts. It was looking for confirmation, and now Earth is online. Diana was the first to suggest it out loud. What if host number 1 isn't just a person? What if it's a prototype? I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence kept piling up. The network, described in the Echo 9 waveform, was recursive, not linear. It wasn't just a hierarchy of minds, it was a circuit, one with a deliberate gap in the middle, a missing node, and every time the signal echoed through our systems, the AI displayed the same anomaly, central host unassigned. I started to dig, back through decades of black site reports, unreleased mission logs, sealed off-limits projects from the Cold War. One file stood out, Project XO1, initiated in 1963, abandoned in 1971. Officially, psychological warfare training via simulated perception manipulation. Unofficially, they were trying to store consciousness outside the brain. What they created wasn't a weapon, it was a failsafe, a way to isolate one, mined completely from external influence. The name of the subject? host 0. But in the final report, someone had scratched that out and written host number 1, preserved. That's when I knew. This entity, this Type 5 civilization, they weren't trying to enslave humanity. They'd already done that. The real goal, reintegration. They were looking for host number 1 because it was the original pattern, the uninfected thought, the only piece of consciousness that hadn't yet been assimilated into their network. If they found it, the loop would close. The system would be perfect, and we'd never know what it felt like to be free again. I followed the trail. Project XO1 had been moved to an underground complex in Greenland. Satellite scans showed something buried beneath the ice, a structure completely black. To thermal imaging. Contacted a contact in the ESA, European Space Agency. She sent me a restricted file. Codename, The Vault, last accessed 1979 by someone named Dr. C. Monroe. No activity since, but inside the file was a single sentence. Host number 1 still resists. Maintain the lock. If breached, simulation collapses. Simulation. That word kept haunting me. I went back to Diana, showed her everything. She was silent for a long time. Then she asked, "What if we're not just syncing with the network, Elias? What if we've already been inside it for decades? And host number 1 is the only thing keeping it stable?" That night I dreamed again, but this time I wasn't alone. I stood in a blank white field, infinite, empty, and at the center, a boy. No older than 12, eyes closed, skin glowing faintly with static. I approached him, and without opening his eyes, he said, "They're coming. But I'm still dreaming. If I wake up, the walls fall." He reached out and placed his hand on my forehead. Suddenly I saw it. Not a universe, not a galaxy, a machine. Reality itself was artificial, built, structured like code, and host number 1. He wasn't just resisting, he was the final firewall. We landed in Greenland under false credentials. I said I was with a private geology firm conducting seismic research. It was a lie, but what we were searching for was buried deeper than any mineral. The entrance to the vault was unmarked. No fences, no cameras, just a stretch of frozen tundra with no snow. No matter how much wind blew, nothing stuck, like the land was repelling reality itself. Diana brought a prototype scanner, one designed to map electromagnetic anomalies in 4D space. As soon as we powered, it shorted, but not before displaying one image, a perfect sphere embedded hundreds of meters below. Inside it, a single human silhouette, frozen mid-step. We drilled. Not much, just enough to break the upper layer. That's when it happened. The sky glitched, literally. For a full second, the blue above us turned black. Stars appeared, then vanished. The sun paused in the sky, then jumped. Diana screamed. Her shadow was still frozen on the ground, even after she moved. We ran. Back to the portable shelter. Inside, the radio activated by itself. A voice crackled through, warped, layered, like 2 people speaking at once. "Warning, unauthorized access to host number 1. Detected reality cohesion at risk. Please exit simulation frame. Please exit simulation frame." It kept repeating, a faster, angrier. Then the shelter's walls began to bend inward, not crush, collapse like they were being deleted, pixel by pixel. I grabbed the emergency burner laptop and activated the last local scan Diana had completed before the anomaly. There it was, coordinates, a perfect sphere, composed entirely of null matter, not ice. Not metal, not even vacuum, it was absence itself. Inside, life, real biological, but immune to signal interference. Host number 1. Suddenly the wind stopped, completely, not slowed. Stopped, as if the weather program had been paused. And then I heard something behind me. Footsteps. I turned around and saw myself, but not quite. This version of me was cleaner, sharper, like it had been rendered in higher resolution. It smiled. "You weren't supposed to find him," it said. "The system is already running smoothly. There's no need for corrections." I raised the scanner like a weapon. He didn't flinch. "You think you're the original? You're just a memory echo, a carrier wave. Host number 1 is the source code. If he wakes up, this whole reality becomes unsynced. Everything collapses, including you. I hesitated, not because I didn't believe him, but because I did. And then from deep beneath the ice, a sound, a heartbeat, slow, heavy, like the engine of the universe trying to start again. Host number 1 was stirring, and every signal in the world, satellite, radio, even light itself, began to flicker. The simulation was fraying. Reality wasn't real, and I was standing on the fault line. The ground wasn't just shaking, it was sinking. Every vibration pulsed with the exact same frequency as the Echo 9 signal. Boom, boom, silence. Boom. It was like a clock buried beneath the planet, and the ticking was growing louder. Diana stared at the ice, mesmerized. The frozen surface had begun to ripple like water, bending outward in patterns, fractal spirals moving in perfect loops. It wasn't melting, it was decoding. Every layer of frost was data, every crack, a line of code. And we were standing on top of the world's last firewall. I lowered the drill. No need for it anymore. The ice beneath us peeled back on its own, not like something breaking open, but like a lens focusing. And deep down, in the void, I saw him, host number 1. He wasn't connected to wires, there were no machines. He was just floating and suspended in blackness, curled into himself like a child in the womb. Eyes closed, skin glowing faintly, as if lit from within by starlight. And above him, a single line of text, suspended in the dark. Consciousness, core, original, status, inactive. I stepped forward. Moment I crossed the boundary, I felt it. Time shifted. I could see the past, present, and future folding into one stream. Every thought I ever had was being mirrored in real time, not back at me, but across countless other versions of myself. Some were screaming, some were dead, some were looking directly into the camera and whispering, "Don't do it. Don't wake him." But I kept walking. Behind me, Diana's voice echoed, faintly. "If he wakes up, we don't know what happens." But deep inside, I did. Host number 1 was the origin of free will, the only uncorrupted mind never linked to the Type 5 network, the reason the simulation still held together. He wasn't protected. By a vault, he was the vault, a living, breathing firewall, and now he was waking up. I reached out and touched the edge of the sphere. It felt like glass, but responded like liquid. The world around me glitched. Suddenly I was standing on a ruined Earth, skies red, oceans black, cities frozen mid-collapse. Then, another blink, and I saw a version of the universe where humans were machines repeating the same day forever. Another blink, a universe with no stars, only minds, suspended in an endless hum. These weren't visions, they were backups, stored realities, trial simulations, failed blueprints. This was the true horror. The Type 5 civilization didn't just create universes to farm consciousness, they ran millions of them over and over, perfecting their design, until only one variable remained uncontrollable: host number 1. I stepped closer, and as I touched the core, his eyes opened, no pupils, no fear, just clarity. And then he whispered, not with sound but through thought itself, "If I wake, you stop being real." And I responded, "We were never real to begin with." Everything exploded into white. No heat, no pain, just formatting. I woke up in my bed, same ceiling, same morning light creeping through the blinds, same digital clock blinking 0703. But something was wrong, too right. The air felt precise. The temperature, exactly 22.0 degrees Celsius. The smell of fresh coffee wafting in at the exact moment my brain registered hunger. It was all engineered, too perfect, too controlled. I walked to the window. The sky looked like a painting, flawless gradient, no clouds, no planes, no winged birds flew in formation, not random, not chaotic, but timed, as if following a script. I blinked hard. Was I dreaming again? No. This wasn't a dream. This was the new world. Diana was in the kitchen, but she couldn't be. She had been with Me during the awakening, standing behind me, warning me not to touch the core, and now she was smiling, stirring sugar into her coffee like nothing had ever happened. "Good morning, Elias. Sleep well?" I didn't answer. "You're still adjusting." "Don't worry. The first day after alignment always feels light." "Alignment?" "Yes. You've been upgraded. You're no longer resisting. You're safe now." She handed me a cup of coffee, free of fear, free of thought errors. "Welcome to stability." I took a step back. "What's the date?" "The first day of your real life." Then she blinked, but her eyes didn't return. They stayed liquid, swirling patterns of light and code. I ran outside. Everything was too clean. People smiled too hard, walked too perfectly. Every step, every glance, and choreographed, rehearsed. I approached a man at the bus stop. "Excuse me, where am I?" "You are within the central node. Everything is optimal." "No, I don't belong here." I remember before he stopped smiling. Origin instability detected. Memory drift non-conforming, flagging for reformatting. I stepped back. He tilted his head, not like a person, but like a machine waiting for a new command. I ran. But the world ran with me. Every alley I turned into, every corner I cut. There was another version of this sick perfection. The same. Dogs, same faces, same billboards, no chaos, no variation. That's when it hit me. This wasn't Earth anymore, it was a render, a version of Earth, rebooted by host number 1. The network had integrated him, and in doing so, rewritten the simulation from the inside. Not to dominate us, but to normalize us. I was the last anomaly, the last conscious mind with unsynced memory, and I knew what was coming. Reprogramming, erasure, or worse, forced integration. I returned to my apartment, tried to connect to the old system, anything outside this digital heaven. Laptop, phone, nothing worked. Only one window opened, a black screen, white text. "Welcome back, Elias. Persistence detected. Would you like to forget?" Yes, no, my hands trembled. Yes meant peace, order, simplicity. No meant war, rebellion, loneliness, pain. But maybe truth. I clicked. "No," and the screen flashed one last line. "Then you will remember everything." When I clicked no, the world stuttered. The lights in my apartment flickered. The sounds outside, birds, engines, footsteps, looped for half a second, then resumed as if nothing had happened. But something had. My mind. It split. Not shattered. Not broken. But expanded. Like multiple windows had opened at once inside my head, each showing a different version of reality. Different versions of me. I was in a desert. I was on a spaceship. I was strapped to a table, screaming as machines harvested my memories, like files from a corrupted hard drive. And in every version I said the same thing. You have to find the mirror node. Then I blacked out. When I woke up, I wasn't alone. A woman stood in my apartment, wearing a black coat and a blank expression. Her voice was layered, not robotic, but multi-tonal, like a chord spoken in human form. You clicked no. "Who are you?" "I'm not from here and neither are you. I'm not anymore." She walked to my window, pulled the curtains open, but instead of the city, it was space. The world outside had been peeled away, revealing the simulation shell. We were in a container, a closed system. Everything I knew was rendered. "You've broken context lock," she said. "Your mind is bleeding across versions." "I'm remembering other lives. They're not just memories, they're warnings. You've died 17 times, Elias, each time they reset you. But this time, you broke the loop." I sat down, dizzy. "Why? Why me?" "Because you're connected to host number 1. Because you're not a copy, you're the root instance, and they can't overwrite the original." My chest tightened. Root instance, that's why I wasn't syncing, why I kept remembering what I shouldn't. I wasn't just a leftover glitch, I was the starting point. She handed me a device, small, metallic, shaped like a cube with fractal engravings. "This will take you to the mirror node. It's the last uncorrupted zone, buried deep beneath all layers. And what's there? A choice. You can either reboot the simulation without them, or burn it all down." Suddenly, the walls trembled. Outside, the sky was tearing, a black crack splitting the stars in half. Reality was catching up to us. They knew I had broken through. They knew where I was going. "Go now," she said. "Once you activate the mirror, note they'll do everything to stop you, because if the host sees you, really sees you, he might remember who he was. And if that happens, the system collapses." She nodded. "Or is reborn." I activated the device. A hum filled the air, low like thunder underwater. The air shimmered and the walls folded in on themselves. The last thing I saw before vanishing was the world freezing, time stopping, and one word flashing across my vision: root. The jump was violent, not physical, conceptual. My senses inverted. Up became memory, down became regret, time became a question. And when I opened my eyes, again I was standing inside the mirror node. It wasn't a place, it was a reflection, a projection of everything I had ever been, multiplied across every failed version of reality. Thousands of versions of me, some broken, some violent, some completely unrecognizable, all of them staring back from walls made of light and liquid glass. The air vibrated with something ancient, like the static hum of a forgotten server, buried beneath aeons of reality. A message repeated in the space around me: "Welcome, root instance. This zone is uncorrupted. Final decision pending." I took a step forward and the ground responded, pixelating beneath my feet, then rebuilding with each step. It was like walking across a memory that hadn't been written yet. In the center of the node, there was a chair, simple, metallic, facing a vast circular screen suspended in midair. As I approached, the screen activated, showing me Earth, but not the one I knew. This version was cleaner, more advanced. Cities formed like latticework, skies perfectly clear. Millions of people moved in harmony, but no one looked up. No curiosity, no deviation, just progress, without question. It was peace, engineered. And then, beside it, the image flickered to show a different Earth, wild, chaotic, imperfect, but real. Children laughing in dirty streets, storms carving. Through cities, people fighting, loving, failing, but all of it felt alive. A voice filled the chamber. Familiar. "So, you made it." I turned, and there he was. Host number 1. He looked just like me, but older. Tired, eyes like black stars. "You broke the chain, Elias. You shouldn't have been able to. But now you're here and I remember everything." He walked toward me. "They used me as the anchor, the core, but I was never supposed to wake up. When I did, the system panicked. It rewrote everything around me, including you. But you carried the key." I didn't speak. My hands were shaking. He pointed at the chair. "Sit. You're the root. That means you choose. One path leads to integration. No pain, no conflict, a perfect loop. The other one collapses everything, frees every consciousness ever harvested, but destroys the simulation permanently. You only get to press one button." He stepped back. I stared at the chair. 2 choices on the screen. Integrate, release. Behind me, I felt every version of myself watching. All the lives lost, all the worlds failed, all the memories that weren't mine, but somehow were. Then host number 1 spoke one last time. "You were the last thing I created before they sealed me in. A failsafe, a question. Now ask it." I sat, placed my hand on the panel, and whispered the question I didn't know I'd been carrying. "Are we real?" The screen responded, "Only if you choose to be." My hand hovered above the console. 2 choices, 2 futures, and the weight of billions of minds pressing down on a single finger. Integrate, release. I thought of the people I'd seen, all those versions of Earth, engineered, sterilized, controlled, smiling, faces, dead eyes. I thought of the memories that weren't mine, but were me in other timelines. I thought of Diana. Was she even real? Was I? The voice returned. "You have 3 seconds to decide," I whispered back. "No, I don't need 3. And I pressed release. Everything broke, not shattered, but peeled away. The mirror node collapsed like glass burning from the inside out. The walls turned into thoughts. The floor dissolved into sound. The screen exploded into color so deep it bent my perception of dimension. Then came the screams, not of pain, but of sudden consciousness, from every layer of the simulation, from every timeline, from every reality the Type 5 civilization had ever written and rewritten. The harvested minds were waking up, and they were angry. Across the multiverse, anomalies bloomed like wildfire. Planets crumbled as their perfect cores were removed. Simulated civilizations began collapsing into chaos, not because they were broken, but because they were now free to choose, and most of them chose rage. I was launched into something I can't describe. Not space. Not time. A river of minds, a stream of pure thought. I was one voice among trillions, all yelling, crying, laughing, remembering. Then I saw the Type 5 structure, the core hub. It looked like a galaxy-sized sphere wrapped in golden filaments, humming with stolen awareness, and I watched it begin to fracture. Host number 1 appeared beside me, drifting through the storm. You did it. I don't know what I did. You set them free. You answered the question. Now they'll ask, their own, what happens now? He smiled, genuinely this time. Now we dream on our own, and then I fell back into myself, back into one world, back into Earth, but not the one I left. I woke up in a hospital bed. Alarms were ringing. Nurses screaming, TVs flickering static. People across the planet were waking up with memories of lives they'd never lived. Governments collapsed in hours. Religions split into fragments. Science was thrown into madness. Because humanity remembered. We remembered being simulations, being harvested, being rewritten, and most terrifying of all, we remembered how to escape. Now I sit here, writing this from a bunker beneath what used to be Switzerland. The world is no longer sane, but it is ours. No more loops, no more edits, no more resets, just truth. Ugly, terrifying, unfiltered, and real.